Video games are great. For a lot of us, we grew up on the media, and a lot of our favorite stories or moments that can come from these games. And I've always had a soft spot for MMORPGs. I started in the days of RuneScape, back before they even called it old school RuneScape, and I transitioned to World of Warcraft, and then a buddy of mine in college convinced me to try out a game called Final Fantasy XIV. I had played games like Final Fantasy XV, 6, and 7 before, but 14 was a different beast. It was an MMORPG, and I decided to dive into it back in the days of Stormblood, and I fell in love with it. It was a little bit touch and go every now and then, but I fell in love with it more and more. I've talked about before why I love Shadowbringers so much, and then Endwalker came around. And unless my memory is just garbage, which, to be fair, is entirely possible, it was the first ever game that I completed start to finish on stream on this channel. My longest stream to this date is about 11 hours. I think it's more like 10 hours and 50 minutes. And that was for the finale of Endwalker, funnily enough. I had to take that stream down because of the Heavensward theme in the credits. Though I used the words have to, I didn't have to, I just didn't want the claim on the channel. And this was before you could really edit YouTube VODs over 2.5 hours in length. But I still have that. I had to download it off of YouTube at 480p, but I still have that VOD because those memories were so precious.
'Twas a grand, glorious dream we shared.
And there's absolutely an argument to be made that streaming a game can inherently change the experience. But for me, it elevated Endwalker. And if you were to ask me, what are my favorite moments in all of gaming? 2 of my top 3 would be in Endwalker, with both of the Endwalking scenes. You know the one. The other scene would be in Shadowbringers. Hi, Emmett. Now I'm just gonna say this right here, full spoilers from here on out. To properly talk about why I love Endwalker so much, I cannot restrain myself to be spoiler-free, because this is a game of moments. And in these real transcendent moments, they managed to cultivate what, in theory, should have been borderline impossible. A conclusion to a 10-year saga in the making. A conclusion, mind you, that not only wraps up and gives a sense of finality to all of those people who either had just started playing the game, or who started all the way in the back in the days of 1.0 or Realm Reborn. But it also set up the world and even the characters to continue into the future with Dawn Trail and beyond. Even 6.1 to 6.5, it set up those characters in these locations and gave us reasons to continue caring about the game, but still giving us that satisfying conclusion we so richly craved. Endwalker was asked to do all of this, and that is a Herculean feat of storytelling, and also execution. It should have been borderline impossible, but in my opinion, they not only surprised me by succeeding, they surpassed my wildest expectations. A game of strong themes, great characterization, amazing moments in gameplay sections, and also just trying new things, taking risks, because it might be fun. And you know what? For the most part, it was. We can get hung up in the minutia of online debates where we hyper-focus in on any small aspect to criticize so that we can elevate some other aspect in some petty internet discourse. Which is better, Shadowbringers or Endwalker? I like both, damn it. And sure, the Moon Bunny scene on the moon may be a bit slow. Maybe those scenes in Labyrinthos before we head off to Ultima Thule was a bit slow. But you know what? Endwalker on the whole was so worth it. From the moments of comedy where we turned into frogs, to those moments of time where we went to Golemald and we witnessed the massive empire that had been an existential threat since even the days of 1.0 and a Realm Reborn. That empire. Finally, we were tasked with going into their kingdom, their domain, and taking the fight to them. And all we found was a ruined, scattered people on the brink of starvation and freezing to death, holding on and clutching their pearls of patriotism and valor, all masqueraded in years of propaganda that were beautifully explored in Golemald. And then we went to the moon, where we fought the big bad up to this point in time, and then the game really truly began. We weren't introduced to the main antagonist of Endwalker until about level 87. Throughout the 1 to 90 experience, the main antagonist was introduced at level 87. She went on to to become one of my favorite antagonists in all of gaming. That is how good they are at writing a narrative. They took the Final Fantasy trope of having some giant god be introduced at the very end out of seemingly nowhere, and then we fight them. They took that and made them a truly compelling character that ties every plot thread together in the Hydaelyn Zodiac arc. Was it all planned from the extreme beginning in A Realm Reborn? No. Did it all flow and make sense at the end? Yes, and that's what matters. It was a great experience from start to finish. I have never, ever seen a story unravel like Final Fantasy XIV's has. A story this long and monolithic in scope, but also succeed. I made an entire series back in the day about why I love Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker so much, where I talked about characters like Meteion, Xenos, and even Vana. 3 amazing characters. And honestly, 3 of my favorite characters in all of Final Fantasy XIV were primarily because of Endwalker. That's how strong I view it narratively. Shadowbringers is immaculate, and Endwalker makes it even better. And there's value to that. And as we look on to Dawntrail and the new story that we've already started with 6.1 to 6.55, technically, looking back on all that Endwalker did and achieved, in my opinion, is paramount. Because it is the blueprint to tell an amazing narrative. A compelling one that matters and one that resonates. It doesn't matter if it's tropey at points or not, so long as it hits, so long as it feels good to experience, because at the end of the day, that is what people care about. Having that intrinsic balance between the predictability and the unpredictability is so important. A story that is wholly unpredictable or predictable, in my opinion, rarely ever lands completely, but a story that is able to understand when to be predictable and when not to be, those transcend the medium that they're in. I predicted the Xenos story of Endwalker nearly to a T. The only thing I got wrong was the location of the final 1v1. I said it would be in the center of the world. It ended up being at the edge of the universe. Every other part, I said he'd come in clutch, help us save the day, and then we clutch up a 1v1 against him to wrap up Endwalker. And you know what? I predicted that. Was I disappointed that I was right? Hell no. It was so good! Because that's how it should have played out, in my opinion. We had that moment to allow our experience as the player to resonate in-game. And it was amazing nuance on the theme of Endwalker. A reason to keep going, a reason to not give in to despair and nihilism. Because that is really what Endwalker is about at the end of the day. It's a dissection and a deconstruction of nihilism as a concept and spitting in its face. Was it predictable that the Scions of the Seventh Dawn would come back? In my opinion, yes. There was no way they were gonna just kill off all those characters in one fell swoop at the end. That's not how they write stories. I understood that. I never expected them to die. At least I don't remember expecting that. Did it matter to me? No. Because it worked with what was going on in the moment. It worked with the theme. It worked with the motives of each of the characters, that they were willing to do that to begin with, because that was the point. Bringing Emmett Selk back and Hythlodaeus to respond to Meteion at the edge of the universe in the Field of Flowers? Amazing! The final days, Endwalker managed to tread the line between the grim, dark realities of despair, but also those just shining moments of silliness and fun that Final Fantasy is known for. The Loporrits were a perfect fit. And now, no matter what, when we look up into the night sky in Final Fantasy XIV and we look at the moon, we have this entire story to it now. Like, that matters. That matters so much going into the future. Because they made us invested in this world. They made us invested in these characters, and they paid it off. They knew when they needed the story to be slow-paced, when they needed these characters in these moments just time to breathe and to spread their wings, and when they needed to really punch you in the gut. Did they nail it 100% of the time? No. There's a couple of slow sections in Endwalker, sure. Am I gonna particularly care about those slow sections when the entire experience was as good as it was? No. I'm really not gonna care. Because even in those slow moments, we had moments of greatness. Urianger meeting up with Moonbreeder's parents. Or Urianger, like, giving the pep talk to the Loporrits. Now that I'm thinking about it, they really use Urianger in these, like, slow moments, huh? Like, Pudding Away. Brilliant! It's dumb, simple, but it's funny. And it doesn't need to be more than that. Who remembers the fake out in Golemald, where we thought the final days had truly approached and we saw the Loperit like approach like a zombie, and then he just started saying pudding, pudding. It was funny. It was lighthearted. It was what that moment needed because it's bookended by these big existential threats. It's great. If you take everything too serious all the time, you'll not find those moments to smile and to laugh. And finding those moments is what makes each day worth living. And likewise, if we're too lackadaisical and we're too carefree every now and then, it doesn't allow us to take these moments that we're supposed to take seriously. But Endwalker knew when it had to be silly, when it had to be fun. That's one of Final Fantasy XIV's strengths. They've gotten better at this concept, time and time again. With Dawntrail on the horizon, legit within like 2 days now, I've been doing a lot of thinking and reminiscing about that experience in Endwalker, and just how good of a story that was. Just remembering all those individual little moments that happened, and I'm like, yeah, that was great. I don't think anything will ever top this for me. Especially when you take it in conjunction with Shadowbringers, which is what you're supposed to do, because they're part of the same narrative. One flows into the other. They make each other better. Good God, I haven't even mentioned Elpis yet. That's how good Endwalker was for me. I've spent this entire video and I haven't even addressed Elpis, which is everyone or a lot of people's favorite part of Endwalker. Going back to the time of the ancients, spending time with Vana, Emmett Selk, and Hythlodaeus, just seeing what that society was like back in the day, and all the cool, wild, wacky places there, and how beautiful of a zone it was being introduced to Medion, seeing that entire story unfold, and that dungeon, and those reveals, mwah, it was so good. And then we go to the edge of the universe in Ultima Thule. Good God, does Endwalker go places. Good God, is Endwalker ballsy, and good God, is it better off because it is. There are so many theories before Endwalker came out. So many theories where the cards were played close to the chest that could have landed fine. They really would have ended fine if, like, Hydaelyn was the big bad at the end of it all, or whatever. Sure, but they said screw it, let's do this. And we saw Vana's walk. We saw our walk in Ultima Thule, with Closed in the Distance blaring in the background as the memories of all the NPCs we have come to know and love resonated and blared out from the echoes in their shadows. Good God, does it work. Good God, does it work. It is so easy in the internet, especially in the modern day, to be caught up in negativity or to be caught up in discussions and discourse that are inherently designed to bring another thing down, to try and bring or elevate something else up. Our incessant need to rank things or to say something else is better because we want to have a hot take or whatnot infests internet discourse. But I think it's important every now and then, and especially now at the end of the journey, and at the start of another, to look back and just say, you know what? Sure, it had its faults, but damn, it was a good time nonetheless. And if I could relive any video game again for the very first time, it would be an honor and a privilege to experience Final Fantasy XIV all over again with fresh eyes. Because good God, was it so good that first time, and I wish I could relive it. And I think it's a statement and a testament to how good and how much this story has resonated with the hearts and minds of so many people that we can talk about this for a video game, but also that there's an actual phenomenon of giant mass of people that go from streamer to streamer who are experiencing Final Fantasy XIV for the very first time because they want to see their reactions and relive those moments for the first time vicariously through them. That's how impactful this story can be for people. And you know the funny thing, I talk about this because in my community, there's not too many people who have experienced Endwalker or Shadowbringers and whatnot. And I always tell them, it's impossible to explain to people who have not experienced this story for themselves just why it resonates so much, just why it's so good. And I think that's part of the reason I love it so much. So yeah, is this video just me glazing about Endwalker? Yeah, but hey, it's why I love Endwalker. At the end of it all, that's why. Endwalker was amazing, and I'm looking forward to Dawntrail so much. Does it have to be as good as Shadowbringers and Endwalker? No. Do I think it'll be an amazing time of its own? Yes. I'm looking forward to it so much. And as another journey begins, I think it's important to look back on the journey we have just walked, to examine and look back and explain why we enjoyed it so much, or where words fail us to describe why we like something adequately. Sometimes just exclaiming that we do can be more than sufficient. Thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps help support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Leave a comment down below with your favorite moment from Endwalker. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your stories and hear your experiences. Was it a raid? Because the raids were good. I didn't even touch on those. The raids were good, and I even liked the 6.1 to 6.5 story. Pacing was a bit awkward, don't get me wrong, but I really enjoyed the Zero and Golbez story, and I can't wait to see those characters return down the line, because that entire narrative was clearly set up. So, thank you all for tuning in, stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all at the dawn of the new trail. Ho-ho! Nailed it again! Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again! One more time, until we meet again!